Okay, my name is Anthony Lewis and I am the founder and creator of Bikepacking.Peru.com. Today we're hosting a very special guest, Axel Carion, a French explorer, adventurer, holder of 3 cycling world records, a team cycling world record with Andreas Fabricius to cycle the length of South America unsupported from Cartagena to Ushuaia in 49 days, 23 hours and 43 minutes, beating the previous time of 58 days. World record for the fastest crossing of Jordan in 120 hours with Jonas Deichmann from north to south following the ancient trade routes taken by merchants in the Middle East. 730 kilometers approximately, including 20,000 meters of elevation gain and some insane inclines up to 26%, I believe, or around there. World record for the fastest crossing of the Peruvian Great Divide from Cusco to Conococha, a distance of approximately 1,900 kilometers, 90% on unpaved roads, including 40,000 meters of elevation gain with 35 passes over 4,000 meters. Creator of BikingMan, first unsupported ultra-distance cycling world championship, includes races in Oman, Corsica, Brazil, Peru, Portugal, Laos. Will soon include one in France, if I'm not mistaken, in 2021. Ambassador of the French NGO, I'm going to probably say this incorrectly, Pompiers Sans Frontières.
Bomberos sin fronteras.
Bomberos sin fronteras, in español, mejor. Okay, because my French is horrible. Yeah, ambassador of the French Riviera, I'll say it in English, since 2020, and mapped out an extension to the Peruvian Great Divide to include Cusco as its starting point in 2019. Welcome, Axel. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you. It's put in words like this, it feels like a big trip, a nice journey. Spent mostly in South America so far.
Yeah, exactly. You cycled the length of South America from Cartagena to Ushuaia twice, if I'm not mistaken. Once in 2015 on a relatively heavy touring bike, 60 kilograms, if I'm not mistaken, from reading about it. And then again in 2017 for a successful world record attempt with your friend Andreas. What motivated you to ride the length of South America again and attempt the world record? And what were some of the biggest challenges and some of the highlights on those rides?
Well, as you said, in 2015, I went with a team of 2 friends, a woman and a man, for my longest journey to date on a bike, which aimed at crossing or linking Cartagena in Colombia up to Ushuaia in Argentina, and following mostly the Andes with touring push bikes. At that time, I had very few experience in ultra bike packing or ultra light bikes, and I was still touring the old style. So I was carrying a 60 kilo bike. The woman was 50 kilos with a bike, and my friend Stefan as well. We were super loaded, but we were carrying all the equipment to survive that ride without any kind of support. And the ranges of South America are just incredible in terms of temperatures, altitude. And when I finished that experience of more than 200 days, which was a life-changing experience for sure, I felt like something was missing because the bike was so heavy, and in some sections it was so hard to plainly ride 35 kilometers in an entire day of 10 hours of riding, that I felt that it could be interesting to investigate the Alpine style between the Himalayan style. If I make some comparisons with hiking, Himalayan climbers are climbing with Sherpas and lots of equipment, so it's different kind of climbing. And the Alpine style on the opposite aims at climbing super light and trying to achieve reaching the pass or the mountain as fast as possible and go down without the necessary equipment to survive. So it's speed versus high logistics. So that's how, when I came back from South America, I knew that there was something unfinished business there. and that I would need to come back and compare the two experiences. And that's how I organized attempting to smash that world record of Scott Napier at that time of 58 days. And I brought on board another friend, Andreas, because I love to share experiences and be with someone who doesn't have necessarily the experience of this kind of riding. And at that time, it was Andreas. So, and we went there with a bike, and with the total equipment, I was carrying 25 kilos, bike plus equipment. So dividing by two, the overall weight, and we targeted at the time to aim at 50 days to cross the entire continent. We didn't follow the same route, like the exact same route. The first expedition was 200 days, 13,000 kilometers, 13,500 exactly, and 154,000 meters of elevation gain. On the other hand, when I went ultra bikepacking South America, it was 11,000 kilometers in total with 74,000 meters of climbing. So almost the same length, but in terms of climbing, less than double. So we divided by two the climbing, and overall I managed to ride 220 kilometers per day, fast bikepacking the continent. So if I had to make the comparison, it's just two different experiences. And if I have to make the comparison with mountains and hiking, it's two different experiences, and they both have a lot to share, and you have a lot to learn from two experiences. There isn't one that is better. It's just riding a bike and going at a different speed. And I would say that the risks and the risks overall are just different. When you're bike touring, you can store food for 5 days and up to 5 days or even more. Like some people are bike touring self-supported for more than 14 days, carrying their own water and food. But that's the beauty of it. You can carry really a lot of stuff and be completely self-supported out of any water sources, out of any food, and you can still survive. You're slow, but that allows you to really go off the beaten tracks and really enjoy being in places and rough terrain that are literally impossible to reach with a regular bikepacking configuration. Whereas bikepacking and ultra bikepacking allows you to go fast and cross sections that are very dangerous, very risky, but you are betting that the speed will beat the logistics that would prevail if you were slower.
In terms of like, were both of them on roads? I didn't read about that because I know the latest one, you know, when you did the Peru Great Divide, that was basically, you know, on 90% unpaved roads. But was your trip, the second trip, was that on roads all the way down to Ushuaia, or did it just depend what was quickest, or?
It was mostly on tarmac. The only like rock sections that we had were in Colombia, but it was not that bad gravel. It was like packed gravel and drivable roads, and also in Argentina on the Road 40, but it was mostly on tarmac. Whereas the first expedition, I don't have the exact stats. I would need to investigate that in my old logbooks. But it was we had more gravel and more expedition style gravel riding, especially in Peru and Bolivia. Bolivia was just like really different because the two expeditions. So let's picture South America for lots of people, or Latin America, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Bolivia, and Argentina. When I first cycle crossed the continent, we went through and across all Latin America countries. When I've been for the world record, we didn't go to Bolivia. We literally crossed from Chile to Argentina following Paso de Jama, which is a tarmac road, which is way faster than crossing Bolivia, the salt flat desert, and the southwest of Bolivia, which is super famous for bike touring, the South Lupes, which is absolutely brutal, but mind-blowing.
So I read, just in terms of that, did you have any scary experiences where things like, I mean, I know you're used to all sorts of experience, but surely there must have been a couple of, you know, dodgy experiences and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah, to be honest, not that much.
No?
I really believe, and I'm a strong believer of when you're riding a bike and a touring bike or a bikepacking configuration, most of the things that you're creating and that wave that you're carrying with you are just positive waves. It's most of the time people are feeling empathy and they're trying to help. And I love that contact with the people. As soon as you're riding a bike, I don't know, it feels like people are understanding that you are on a journey. And especially when you go really off the beaten tracks or on very remote villages in the Andes, or in Jordan or in Asia. So now, wherever I've been with my bike, as soon as you reach a point on a bike and that people do understand that you're on your own, they're just nice and trying to help because they understand how hard and what are the physical commitments that you've pushed in to actually be there. So I didn't really experience bad things apart from maybe a thief attempt in Argentina, but it was in a very touristic region.
Sure.
And like traffic danger, but that's the life of the cyclist. I mean, you're on the road where even if you're on the road or off the beaten tracks on gravel roads, you still have a lot of risk because you're riding a bike, so you're based on equilibrium, and anything can happen. So that's part of the usual risks of riding a bike. But I wouldn't say that I was really in very bad situations so far.
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the good, it's good that you mentioned that because so many people have these ideas, Axel, that when you go to South America and Peru and that it's so dangerous and this is going to happen. And yes, there could be thieves and yes, you need to camp away from the road and stuff. But I mean, in my experience, I rode across the US, nothing. I was camping in city parks. The only thing that happened was people wanted to help me. Because you're right, when you're riding a bicycle, you have this positive energy. People see you as defensive. They just want to help you.
Plus, when you go on very long distance journeys like this, it feels like you're turning back to that, not your old self, but it's bringing back memories in your DNA. I believe, in terms of instinct and feeling the things with the people. Because you're basically using your own energy to move all day. You keep having challenges, pushing your bike, climbing that hill, finding food, finding water. It's almost like survival, and that brings back memories, I think, from mankind regarding instincts and feeling the situation when you meet someone. So it's true that I met people where I was not feeling confident and where my instincts at that time during these expeditions, I'm always following my instinct. So sometimes I was not staying, I was like, having a chat. And when the situation, I don't feel it, I'm just, riding again and trying maybe to find another place to eat or to stay. But as soon as you follow this, and I've met a lot of people on the road, a lot of bike touring people, people going around the world cycling, and most of them were sharing that value of following your instinct, and most of them didn't have any issues on the road.
Yeah. And just one of the things you said before, Axel, I really feel, I've only done one big trip like I did across the States last summer. And it really feels like you're stripping back to your core nature. You become so much more open and excited about little things. And, there's a stream and there's colors and it's just like, wow, it's like you're a kid again.
Yeah, I think that's the essence of cycling. I think that's what brings the bike when you're taking it in the wilderness. That's certainly a way to. I don't have the word in English, but in French we would say réenchanter, like being joyful again with very simple things. Because the fact of moving with your own body, your own energy, carrying your own stuff, and like being in a situation where you are ultra minimalistic on everything. Like if you lose anything that the stuff you're carrying on your bike, anything you lose is like a huge tragedy because you might not be able to buy it again. And that, that feeling of moving with your own energy, carrying less or carrying the minimum um, does help you to focus on what matters, nature, the surroundings, and how people are interacting as well, how people are living, and that's what I love about expedition cycling. Wherever, even though it might be linked to speed, because I love the Alpine style. I love to take the Peruvian Great Divide and say, these people normally they cross it in 2 months, 3 months. I'll try to do it, I don't know, 15, 16, 20 days. So I'm bringing the speed because it's bringing as well and the unpredictable, a lot of things, and that's what I love about expedition, where you can go slow or fast. The unpredictable factor when you go fast is multiplied because you're taking a lot of risks. Like that pass at 5,000 meters, if I go now, it's 4 p.m. I need to go fast because on top it's going to be freezing. I don't have any tent. I don't have any sleeping bag. So I better be fast. I better have enough water. So you have this calculation process, and it sounds like a bit like hiking and climbing. So, and eventually, like other happenings are being created by the situation. Like you meet people, some things are happening, and that brings the same unpredictable factor that you have when you're bike touring, but it's just that you're multiplying the time you spend on the bike, so you multiply as well the opportunities to make things happening.
Sure. I have to, there's a classic video that you've posted as well, and when you and Andreas had just started in Colombia, I think, on your first day, of the farmer that was riding up on his bike. That would just, I've seen, I mean, there was also one recently posted with another farmer and a professional cyclist, and this guy was keeping up with him. It's just incredible how the people, I mean, I'd be interested in what you have to say. It's incredible how people have adapted, to that sort of altitude. I mean, that guy wasn't even breathing.
Well, that video is, I think that's the story of nowadays. At that time, that was really a phone that took that video. I was like just taking a video and really out of the blue. And we had that guy, it was next to Cañas Gordas, if I remember, in that section, in that part of Colombia. So lots of jungle surroundings. And we had that guy riding an old bike, and he was like literally smashing us. Oh, he was catching up with us and then smashing it in the hill.
And didn't he have potatoes on the back as well, from memory?
Yeah, that's crazy. But I mean, I've seen a lot of things in South America, and these people are incredible. You get people in Colombia, but like Peru and Bolivia are even harder in terms of conditions because you get lots of small villages and very tiny communities of people that are living up to 5,000 meters or even higher. And they're still working. They're working fields. They are, growing potatoes, and from 5 a.m. until 8 p.m. they're working. So they have a huge stamina on this and a huge resistance regarding altitude. That's for sure. But that video, with the years that I've passed through, for me it's not a shame, but because it allowed Andreas and I to get some visibility on the world record. But at the time, the press was more interested in that viral video than what we were trying to achieve in terms of expedition.
Really? They weren't
So
interested in what you guys were doing?
no, people were willing to share the video because it's viral. So when it's viral, it's going everywhere, and
Sure.
and everyone takes the video and posts it. But people were not really focused on why we were there trying to do this.
Sure.
And well, that's the story of of mass media. At that time, it was fun, but now looking back at it, it's a bit too bad because it's noise. My perspective, people are using that video and not really focusing on what you're trying to achieve, and that
Sure.
well, record was really something serious. So
No,
that's
it was
life.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, did you get, seeing you're speaking about that, was there much, like I've seen that you've been on television in France and stuff talking about BikingMan a number of times. Was there much coverage? Did anyone talk about the record and stuff when you got back? Were there people as interested in that or not?
Not really. We had articles saying that that video went up to, I don't know, millions of views, like blew the roof in terms of viewership. But very few people were actually trying to dig that story and understand why we were there riding these
Sure.
kind of bicycles and where were we heading. So no, that didn't bring that much coverage in terms of media. It was more like a viral thing. So
Yeah, it's a way of
it's
what
good if you like to be seen on television 50 million times, but then if it's just viral, I'm not sharing the story. It's not even doing benefits to or tribute to that guy who was actually, just working and having fun on his bike. Because the
Yeah.
real story of that video was that guy was pushing his bike in a hill, and when he saw us climbing with our bikes, he jumped on his bike again as we passed him, and then he tried to catch us up, and then he went ahead of us. But then, for like 5 or 7 minutes afterwards, we passed him over again, greeted him, saying, "Hey, good job, man. That's a good push," and we kept moving forward. But that section of few seconds was just viral and getting everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you never hear the backstory of things. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's the interesting thing. You guys were riding the whole day, and I didn't know that he was. I only just saw that video, by the way, when I was going through some of your stuff online. I'd never seen it before. But yeah, people are so obsessed about viral stuff these days. Just that
Yep.
sensationalist moment.
The
Yeah.
good thing, though, that we had is that video got popular in Colombia. And if I got to share something special about South America and Colombia especially, is that the cycling spirit there is nuts. Like, people are crazy about cycling. So when that video got viral in Colombia, we had people literally stopping on the side of the road saying, "Hey, these guys on the video, yeah, good job," because they knew what we were doing. So
Oh
the people
wow.
who saw the video and watched it in the first place in Colombia knew that we were attempting to world record, and they were like greeting us and saying
Oh.
that's a very hard challenge, good luck, and they were like greeting us and supporting us.
Wow.
So we had some people like this, and that memory was very good in Colombia.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, Colombia. I mean, I haven't been there. I was planning to go there before the virus hit in March, so I can't wait to go and go for a ride. What is Biking Man, and what motivated you to start this particular company?
Well, when I started cycling South America in 2015, at that time, my touring bike, I had a Koga World Traveler, and Koga was offering the opportunity when you buy a bike to sign it. And at that time, the bike was signed BikingMan. So that was the name of the expedition that I wanted to give in 2015. So I had booked the domain name, the brand name, and everything. And I was like, that's the perfect name. I mean, it's saying what we're trying to do. It's someone on a bike and just riding. And at the time, it was not booked, like neither the domain name nor the brand. So I booked everything. But in the end, I was supported by several sponsors, and some of them, as we were a team, asked me to include the entire team. So the expedition finally was named Bike Trippers, and the website is still online, biketrippers.com. It's one of the most famous blogs for French people willing to travel by bike in South America.
What's it called? Biking Trip.
Bike Trippers.
Oh, okay.
Like a bike trip,
Yeah.
and a bike tripper is someone going on a bike trip.
Ah, okay,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I kept BikingMan, the domain name and everything, and my bike still had the name. And when we managed to finish and arrive in Ushuaia, at that time, we spent 8 months riding a bike and crossing that continent when I was bike touring. And I listed several, ideas that I wanted to pursue when I would fly back to Europe. And one of them was organizing, racing and events to share that experience of exploration and that really special experience of riding a bike in a very unknown terrain with a new culture, new conditions, and bringing that far out factor that I experienced in South America and before that, because I was bike touring since 2011. And when I came back, that's how I created my company in 2016, early 2016. And then I pursued the idea of BikingMan and, kept rolling that idea and building the first event with Inca Divide in Peru, which was the first ever organized BikingMan event.
Was that the pilot event in 2016, Axel?
Yeah. It took me 1 year in 2016 to organize the first pilot event in 2017. So I flew back to South America in 2016, in Peru and Ecuador as well. I like to route the event, meet the potential sponsors, establish local contacts for with the authorities and all the race logistics in 2016, and then in 2017 the first event was built.
Wow! And was that the first event from Ecuador, including Peru, that was like 3,000 something kilometers?
That was something ridiculous. It was like it was literally, I think, the hardest and toughest cycling challenge on earth. Because of the elevation, we were closing almost 70,000 meters of climbing over a distance of 3,500 kilometers from Quito to Cusco, so the capital city of Ecuador, and linking the Inca capital city in Cusco, following the entire Andes mountain range. So you had the altitude factor with passes above 4,000 meters up to 4,700 meters. Jungle crossings. If you bike tour in Peru and in Ecuador, La Balsa, La Chonta, everyone who's been on a bike in Ecuador and Peru, who's been on that crossing before 2015 and up to 2016, because then they paved the road, know exactly the experience of crossing that border, because that's one very tiny little border crossing between Ecuador and Peru. It's super wild. You're literally in the jungle. You get like the army with guns and stuff, and it was a very, very wild event. And at that time, we had 17 athletes.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were coming like from from Japan, from the farthest women to the US, to France, Europe, and South America.
Wow.
Almost 17 countries. I can't remember the number of countries represented, but it was like one athlete equals one country. So that at that time, I wanted to test the format of self-supported racing in one of the toughest region to organize something like this. My assumption was, if I managed to attract people, one, if I managed to organize something that runs well, two, and if I manage to survive in terms of organization, three, then I can go anywhere because of the experience that are built there. And
sure,
that was a gamble, and that's what happened. we never came back to attempt to organize something like this afterwards with Didier, my business partner, and David. But it was a lot of learning, a lot, because of it's Peru. If we come back from the two countries, Ecuador is something, Peru is something else. And everyone that I know about, every friend, every colleague, everyone that I've met on the road that I've been to Peru, either bike packing, bike touring, racing, There is a moment before Peru, and there is a moment after, because of the experience.
What do you
Because
think?
it's really a country. It's a very special country.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I had a lot of love for Peru. I have a place there, and I. But what do you think? What for you? What is it about Peru that makes it special in terms of cycling and just the general vibe? Whatever. What do you think?
I think it's a mixture of several ingredients. It's not just one thing, but I would quote the magnitude of the landscapes. I don't know if you can say that in English, but the magnitude of the
Yeah, yeah,
landscapes are
yeah.
just spectacular. Like you literally ride your bike in the morning and you are among cactus fields down a canyon, and it's 35 degrees. And 4 hours later, you have 5,000 meters standing in front of magnificent mountains, snow-capped mountains that are topping almost at 6,700 meters. And in the meantime, you happen to meet one of the most interesting culture that is still living not the old style, because old is a bad word. Like, it's not sharing or giving the tribute to it, but they are living their own style. They are living the Peruvian way of life, and I love to witness it, because they are not changing that fast towards globalization and mass consumption. They still have that spirit linked to the Pachamama, the nature, Mother Nature, and lots of myths that are connected to the Inca culture. And they are not gambling their culture because of mass tourism. And that's what I love about that country, because the magnitude, the people, and the culture, the legacy of the Incas, and all these ingredients are creating something that is impossible to forget when you really go by bike, not by car, or not by bus to the Machu Picchu. When you really go with your bike, exploring these tiny villages, spend some time with the people, talk to them, sleep with them, like at their home, and understand how they live and what motivates them to stay in that tiny village of 15 souls, somewhere completely lost when I'm thinking about the Peru Great Divide.
Sorry, say it
They're
again,
over
Axel.
there.
What did you
They're
say?
happy.
What did you say?
When and I think it's beautiful when you meet these people that are living in very, very tiny villages that are super remote. There is literally nothing, 100 kilometers around the village, and they are growing potatoes, and they're super happy to give you some insights about a famous archaeological site of the Incas very close from their village. They're just happy to share. And that's a life-changing experience to meet these people, because it's a different rhythm, it's a different pace, and I'd say that anyone who loves riding a bike and exploring the world should definitely one day go to Peru, because it has something that a lot of countries don't have, and it's linked to that mixture of ingredients.
Yeah, no, definitely, Axel. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see now. Like, I mean, I think with your race that you've had there, and there seems to be more people going there to cycle now. I mean, I just recently went.
Yeah.
I hope more and more people experience it and just go out there, because honestly, for me, I mean, I only did a week trip recently. It was incredible. I want to go do the Peruvian, after reading about what you guys did, I want to go do the Peruvian Great Divide. I really want to do that. It looks amazing.
Well, if there is one warning though, it's not a country to be taken lightly for
Sure.
cycling. Like, it's
Yeah.
a very, very serious riding experience because of the altitude. Mostly, it's one of the hardest countries that I've been riding a bike, for sure. And the Peru Great Divide has been one of or if not the hardest ride of my entire tiny cycling life, because it's the altitude really adds something that you won't meet in most countries, even in South America.
Yeah.
So be
I mean,
prepared. If you're
oh no,
willing to
definitely.
explore,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you need to get prepared and really take your time to acclimatize.
Sure.
Because when you see Peruvian people, as a tourist. You see these people, and you're like, well, they're slow, and they might seem lazy if you're judging them, but they are waking up at 5, and they are growing potatoes at 5,000 meters, and they do this every day, whatever the weather conditions are, and they've been doing this for centuries. So they are literally built and carved in iron. It's crazy, and that's something that was not obvious the first time I've been there in 2015. That's really something that I discovered spending time there, building the race, and that's also why I'm super happy to get the opportunity to come back to Peru and grow this event. It's because as you meet people, you discuss with them, you understand how they live, you see how hard the life they have is, especially in the mountains. It's a very, very hard country to live in, and I'm just feeling super humble when I meet these people working and being there, and just waking up and doing their thing, and all these mamitas that you see in the villages working, and then bringing the super nice drinks that you have in the morning for your breakfast, and you see that, and it's wow. You're like, when you come back, I think as a better man, understanding how people are living there, and you don't complain afterwards about your lifestyle.
Sure.
In Europe afterwards, when you come back, everything is easy here compared to there.
What is the Peruvian Great Divide exactly, so people know what that is, and where did it get its name?
So it's a route that has been, if I remember correctly, designed by the Pikes to an English couple who likes to hike and bike and mix the two. So they are super nice people, finding routes and building routes across the globe, because they've been to South America, but to other countries as well. But on South America, they shared a lot of their routes that they've explored, hiking and biking. And the Peru Divide, I think that's the first time that I heard about that route was through their website of Neil and Iron Pike. And that was basically, if you picture Peru, you got 3 main roads. The coastal road, which is a highway in the desert, the Andes, even though it's not a straight line, but you get a road in the mountains, and then tarmac, and then the Amazon rainforest road. So 3 main axes that are allowing people to cross the entire length of Peru from north to south. And their goal at that time was to link and cross Peru from the White Mountain Range, where you find the Huascarán National Park, which is the highest mountain of Peru, and Cusco, not following the tarmac road and going off the beaten tracks, finding the small routes that you find in the Andes to make a different type of crossing. So it's not a straight line, it's more like this all the time, because the Andes are actually like this. They are not like this. When you take a map of Peru, the mountain range is actually this way. So you keep on climbing, going down, valley passes all the time. And they share a route that they call the Peru Divide in tribute to the Great Divide mountain bike route that is crossing the entire length of the US in the Rockies. So, and as a tribute of, a very hilly route and a crossing and a huge difference of level between a high point and a low level, I believe that's how they name it, the Peru Divide. And it's basically crossing from Cusco to the White Mountain Range. So from Huaraz, if you take a map of Peru, to Cusco.
But you guys actually, it originally went to, was it Avancay, or where was it? It finished at Avancay or something like that, and then you guys extended a little bit. Is that correct?
Yes, Yeah, correct. Neil and Ariette, they stopped their ride in Abancay. So that's one of the biggest cities before Cusco.
Yeah.
And with Jonas, with my friend, I worked on the route that is allowing to link Cusco directly. Because the Abancay Cusco highway, the P3
3S, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is busy. It's a very nice road, but it's busy with trucks and cars. So I didn't want to stop in Abancay because it doesn't make any sense. So I investigated and searched for a route that is connecting Cusco. So now it's available. You can follow the route that we followed with Jonas and go for the entire length of the Peru Great Divide that Neil and I and Pikes have shared, plus that segment from Abancay to Cusco.
Yeah, I
Instead
noticed.
of taking a bus.
Yeah, I noticed you shared it on, what is it again? What's that? Ride with GPS? Is that the one that you shared? It's got all the tracks and stuff.
Yeah, it's there is a ride with GPS file, and it's the route is shared as well with bikepacking.com, the US website.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it's and the segment from, because we started from Cusco, so we went, if I remember correctly, we went the other way than Ariette and Neil. They went south to north. We went no, they went north to south. We went south to north.
Okay.
So I wanted to start in Cusco.
Yeah.
Because I've been there actually twice, Anthony, on the divide. I've been there in 2018 from Conococha, so north, to, at that time we rode only 400 kilometers.
Is that the time when is that when you went with Rodney and you guys, is that the
yes.
time? Okay.
Yeah, well, we got, our ass kicked, as I would say, because we went there with gravel bikes, tiny tires, and we literally smashed ourselves.
What sort of tires did you have, Axel, if you don't mind me asking?
At that time, I was using 40Cs. 40Cs on 700 wheel. But the tires, I mean, on 40Cs, it's dangerous, but you can still do it. The issue that I had was that I was using a road bike gear ratio. I was with a 50-34 teeth in the front and 11-32 in the back. So trust me, when you are 5,000 meters in Abra Rapaz, when you cross that line, you got to push some power, and you get none with the altitude. So in 2018, I went there, learned a lot, said never again. And 2019, I went back with Jonas from Cusco, so from the south to the north. But it can be done both ways. Huh?
Sure. I was reading about your setup, and I've seen the video as well where you explain basically about your monster gravel bike, which seemed pretty interesting that you got from, they sponsored you. Open, is it? A wide monster gravel bike. Could you talk to us a little bit about what makes that special, and why was that, the right tool for the job, so to speak?
Well, to put it in a context, the Peru Divide, the Peru Great Divide, is mostly ridden either with a touring bike or a mountain bike. My goal, it might sound stupid, I wanted to bring a gravel bike there because I love to bring a Ferrari, in the desert and see what happens. So at the time, I investigated what were, the most extreme gravel bikes available, and Open had released the Wide, which allows to put almost, if not the widest tire clearance of the market. So that's what I built. I went there with a Wide with 2.4 inches tires from a WTV, the Ranchers, and a truck transmission, a gear ratio of like ridiculous. I was using a rotor at that time. 36 teeth in the front and 52 in the back.
Holy
cow.
I
was literally ready for the war. Yeah, on a 27.5 wheel set. Gravel handlebars with a big flare, super large, so that I could put, I was using all clip bikepacking bags, in the front, and the frame pack as well, and the saddle bag. And yeah, I was ready for the war. And the bike was like really acting brilliantly. Jonas at that time was using a way more aggressive way more aggressive configuration than I did. He was using 42 tires and a gear ratio of 42 in the front and 42 or 44 in the back. It was very hard for him when I was spinning the legs at altitude.
So when you were going up
So
yeah, go. Sorry.
I would say that if you want to play and have have fun because you like to bring like a specific machine, like people that are, for instance, loving bringing fixies in races, then go with a gravel bike. If you're searching for comfort though, or having fun and take your time, I would strongly suggest you to take a mountain bike or a touring one. As much as Cass Gilbert, that's what he's used when he's been on the Great Divide. That's what Ayet and Neil Pike, the people that have built the road, they've used as well, some touring bikes, because it's more enjoyable for the body.
Do you like Axel in the sense that it's much more comfortable, like on a mountain bike, like, because is that what it is? Is it the comfort factor, or if they were on a mountain bike or a touring bike?
That's the comfort factor of getting a suspension. That's the first thing. And the second thing, the mountain bike handlebar will provide much more comfort for downhill. The Peru Divide, 35 passes at 4,000 meters. You get a picture that you're actually always climbing a huge mountain and going down for 40 to 60 kilometers, which means in terms of time, sometimes you're going down for more than 2 hours. So overall, the distance, because we are covering and riding with Jonas around 10 hours per day. And with the altitude, it's serious riding. Like it's almost like 15 to 16 hours at sea level.
Sure.
And the downhills are consuming you with a gravel bike handlebar for sure. Whereas when you're with a mountain bike handlebar and a suspension, it really depends on what is your target and what is your goal when you go there. If you want to enjoy it, take your time. Mountain bike with a suspension and a mountain bike handlebar will be, I think, a killer choice. If you want to go fast, have fun, but suffer a bit, gravel. But be prepared that this is one of the toughest gravel terrain on earth.
So are your arms, like if you're going down 40 to 60 kilometers and you're on a gravel, in your monster gravel bike, I'm guessing the vibrations, your arms and your forearms would have just been killing you. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment, but that's just pain, so it's manageable.
Sure.
Depending on how resistant you're to pain. But
sure.
The main risk, and that happens several times, is that you're using the tire as a suspension because you have none on the gravel, and that could create some very dangerous situations, especially in the alpines and switchbacks when you go down, because of the grip that you lose when it gets bumpy with the gravel bike without any suspension. Because basically the handling gets loose, and if you lose the handling, it happened twice for me, and one time was very dangerous. Like I was that close from going down and like jumping off the airplane.
Oh my God.
And there, if you miss one turn, you're dead. Simple. Because some of the switchbacks, you are 5,000 meters and the pass is like this. And in one turn, you go down, 1,000 meters. So it's beautiful, but picture the route with no one around, no car. You are 5,000 meters, so you're a bit diminished by the altitude. You're tired. Your brain is tired. Your ability as well to handle your bike is diminished. So you got to be very careful.
Sure. So, I'm interested, like when you were going up mountains and stuff, were you quicker than Jonas because of your gear ratio? And then like, how did it work? You guys probably split up at different times and stuff. I'm just interested because of
No,
his
at
different.
this time, the Jonas was stronger than me for sure.
Okay.
He was way fitter. He had ridden, I can't remember, thousands of kilometers, and he was getting prepared to race Inca Divide 2019, which was happening right after our world record.
I can't believe that he did that. He did that straight after.
Yeah, this guy's nuts.
He's
he was
insane.
fit as hell. He was super fit. So he was climbing faster than I did, for sure.
Okay.
But he was way slower in downhill. Way slower.
Oh, of course.
He was saving time climbing, but I was getting back on him and like saving time in downhill because I was way faster because of the tire clearance that I had.
Yeah.
And the handling. He was riding 42 Cs. If you go there, Anthony, with 42 Cs, you'll understand. You got to have some serious skills to survive that ride with 42 Cs.
Yeah, no, I understand everything I've read. I mean, would you use that sort of monster gravel bike anywhere else you've ridden, or is it just specifically for that sort of terrain? I mean,
I brought the same bike in Jordan for the Jordan bike trail.
Oh, really?
And I had a different transmission though. On the Peru Divide, I used the Rotor Uno group set, so it was hydraulic. And then on the Jordan bike trail, I switched to SRAM, the AXS group set. So I put a bigger front ring because the Jordan bike trail was supposed to be not that hard, and it was actually brutal. Like ridiculously steep mountains. I've never seen that.
Like what was the highest? What was the highest incline that you went up to? Was it 28% or something?
Well, the only thing because the issue that you have when you walk, Anthony, is that the Garmin is not showing you the actual incline because it's stopping. If you activate the auto stop as you walk, you're too slow, so it's not calculating the actual slope. But the only number that I could read, the highest one was 26 or 28%. But it was hard to walk the bike.
And then I read you guys had to push through sand in the last day or so. Like you had there was a section where you couldn't ride, correct?
Well, this is one of the jewels that Jordan has. I mean, the Jordan bike trail is a serious stuff as well to attempt in terms of bikepacking experiences. But the Wadi Rum section, so the last section, if you start from the north of Jordan and you cross to the south to reach Aqaba City, the southern part, when you reach Wadi Rum, where Star Wars, the movie, was shot, and a lot of movies are shot there because of the landscapes of the desert and the mountains. This part is just spectacular, and we've done it by night. So we started riding in Wadi Rum at 1:30 a.m. and the goal there, when you're riding in the desert with gravel bikes, first, it's stupid. Don't do it because on sand, gravel bikes are very slow because you have very tiny tires and it's ridiculous riding. Second, don't do it at night because riding in the desert, you need to follow the Jeep tracks. That's the game. Otherwise, you don't know whether it's deep sand or soft sand. And we started riding at night because we were a bit late on the world record and on the timing we had settled to do this. And we kept on, riding, falling, riding, pushing, falling, riding, falling. And it's nothing on paper. The Wadi Rum section in Jordan, it might be 50 kilometers. I can't remember exactly the mileage, but it's around 50. But when you're there by night, without seeing anything but your small headlight, it feels like you're going to die there because you keep on falling and you ride at 3 kilometers per hour average. And you're like, okay, 3K per hour, let's say 5. It's going to take me 10 hours to cross that section. And you got like 750 milliliters water bottle, 2. After 2 or 3 hours, you have nothing. You have no water, almost no food, apart from I can't remember the name of the hummus thing they're eating and that we ate every day in Jordan. Anyway, it's like wraps with hummus.
Yeah.
So you ate everything, you have no water, and you're like, okay, at that average speed, you still have 7 hours to go.
What was the previous world record on that particular? What was the previous world record before you guys did it? What was the
Well,
time?
there was actually none. Like the fastest known time was around 13 days or 14 days. But it was not an actual world record. It was someone who tried to ride the entire length as fast as possible. But I can honestly say that I'll buy one beer to anyone attempting this and doing a better time than we've done with Jonas at the same season, because we've been in February there because of the timing. I mean, Jonas is always on an expedition, and so am I. I'm between expeditions or the BikingMan Championship, and so we had literally no options, and that's not the best season to go to Jordan. I mean, we landed in Jordan and it was like freezing. It was 3 degrees. 3 degrees. So we had ranges that were ridiculous, from minus temperatures with rain to almost 35 degrees when we were riding close to the Dead Sea. So at the same season, I would say that's a huge challenge to do better than we did. At a more convenient time, might be doable, but it's still.
What's the best time to ride in Jordan then? What's the best season? What sort of month?
It's 2 months after that.
Oh, okay.
Like April or May.
Sure.
In summer, it's too hot, but April, May, you got longer days, so you're not riding too much at dark, less rain,
sure.
It's hotter, more enjoyable.
Like trying to attempt the Peruvian Great Divide in December or something, or January during rainy season.
On this, I would strongly advise people to get information, because that's really a good point, Anthony. For the Peru Divide, if anyone wants to ride this, don't go, or don't attempt to go for it the Alpine side, like fast bikepacking at the worst season, because the Andes, the weather is serious. You get snowstorm, thunderstorms, it gets muddy, and when it gets muddy, it gets very serious. So
and lots of landslides too, right? Lots of landslides and all that sort of stuff.
It's completely unpredictable, and you can get stuck in a pass and stay there for a long time. So unless you're ready for war, because some people are riding it during the winter time, and it's enjoyable if you get the equipment. If you get the tent, if you get a huge bike, a lot of gear, a lot of water and food, it's okay. It's a different kind of experience. But if you go as we did, fast and light, don't do it, because it's very dangerous. We had minus 15 as we were closing up and getting to Abra Rapaz. And if you have the same temperature with mud and rain.
So, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I rode in December, but that was only because it was on the road and it was the only time I could do it. But I still wouldn't, I still would prefer, it was also the beginning of the rainy season, but I would much prefer to ride in July. And in the Peru Great Divide, I wouldn't even think about it without it being July or August or something. How did you guys decide where you're going to stay at night time? Like, what was your decision based on?
It was mostly based on experience. Never book in advance, and Peru, it's a waste of time because you can't. You don't have bookings. You don't have.
Forget bookings.
Forget about bookings. It's useless, and that's the beauty of it as well. But basically, we're judging the elevation and the passes, because for the Peru Divide, the main challenge is it's super high altitude, so you need to be very careful. It's the same strategy as if you were hiking. Should you attempt the climb now when you know it's 5 p.m.? Maybe not. You might, take a nap, have a proper sleep, because you are at low, not at sea level, but at Peruvian sea level, 2,000 meters. So you'd better stick at 2,000 meters, have a proper night of sleep, and attempt the climb rested. because we didn't mention that with Jonas, but he suffered several times from high altitude sickness from Soroche, and he had twice to leave the trail, go down, rest, and join back the expedition on 2 sections. And he's one of the fittest athletes that I know. And when that happens, the only thing to do is go down.
Did that happen when he was at almost 5,000 meters, or was it just this? What sort of altitude were you at?
When it's striking Soroche, the high altitude sickness, it can strike at 3,000 meters or 5,000 meters.
Sure.
But when it strikes, it strikes. With Jonas, it broke him twice when we were climbing 4,000 meters passes. So we had I think the Abrariti Pata, if I remember. And the second one, I can't remember the name of the pass, but it was when he was climbing, and it's super easy to see.
What did you notice?
The power output is just dropping, because I'm riding with the power meter all the time, and the more you climb at high altitude, the less power you have. It's like an engine. Let's take a car. If you drive a car in Peru, let's take an SUV. Every 1,000 meters, the car engine is losing 10% of its horsepower because of the oxygen. Because at 5,000 meters, you get 50% drop in oxygen level. The same happens with the body, with the human body. So, but once you know, and you get the experience of riding at high altitude that we both had with Jonas, you know exactly when something's wrong. Because there is the power output normal when you're riding at high altitude, and the high altitude sickness power output. You are literally not pushing any watts, nothing. It's like a zombie on the bike. So you're super tired. You have trouble to drink, headaches, and it's you can't miss it. When it happens, you know you have this. And you need to go down. That's the only strategy. You need to go down as fast as possible and stay there for several hours or maybe days.
So he would go down and then come back and join you after he was feeling better. Is that what he did?
Yeah, he actually joined us twice, with trucks. He was basically either taking a truck that was passing along, which happened once, and the second time he took a bus. But that's the beauty of this ride. I mean, if you picture going for a world record or fastest time on that ride, is that there is that unpredictable factor, because it can strike anyone at any time. And when it does, it's Mother Nature. You need to rest.
Sure. No, I mean, Jonas is an incredible athlete. There's no question. I mean, seeing the stuff that he's doing right now, I'm just like, what are you doing, Jonas? He's swimming he's doing like the world's longest, some crazy triathlon right now, right?
Yeah. He's training for the longest ultra triathlon.
He's training for that one.
So, but training for Jonas, it's not training for regular people. When he's training, he's going around Germany doing an ultra triathlon, and figuring out a baby triathlon before going for a world triathlon.
Yeah. I read that you dedicated your ride to the Chasquis, so to speak, in Peru. Who are they, and what was that? What do they signify for you?
Well, it's something very peculiar about the Inca culture that most people don't know.
Yeah, I'd never heard about it before until I read about what you said. So
that's what fascinates me about this culture, is that you have a lot of myths that are known, like the Machu Picchu, the Pachamama, the Mother Nature, but the Chasquis are not known. And when we went to attend the world record, I love to build and find a story around what I'm doing. because it makes sense, and then it allows people to connect to what I'm doing in terms of expedition cycling. If you connect to migration, for instance, because bike touring or fast bikepacking is a type of migration. And when I investigated the Peruvian culture and especially the Inca legacy, the chasquis was part of it. So it's basically a human telegram that was built by the Incas at that time, by the emperor, that was using a network of people that were born and raised to carry messages between tombos, villages. And they had specific clothing, they had specific tool, it was coded messages, they were trained and raised just specifically to carry the messages of the emperor in Cusco. In the length of the Inca Empire, which was one of the biggest empires on earth, to South Colombia, to North Chile. And they were able to carry messages along a distance of 3,500 kilometers in less than 12 days. So they were actually faster, moving faster and sharing messages faster than what we could achieve with Jonas. But I loved the idea of going, in the footsteps of the chasquis, because the Peru Divide is following one of the highest road segments or route segment of Peru. And we are crossing a lot of villages that are named Guaymatambo, for instance. The Tambo name refers to the history where they had casas, houses dedicated for the chasquis that were called the huasis. So you can still feel, and when you get there on a bike, you get the magnitude of it. You're like, these people, even if they were running maybe 12K between villages and then coming back, because it was a relay, they were not running the entire length solo. They were doing relays with people. But when you're there with your bike, riding one tiny part, because the Peru Divide is less than 2,000 kilometers. So you're riding less than 2/3. Then you understand the magnitude of that feat, of building the network of people that are dedicated to do that, then finding the people that are willing to do that and running all day in these mountains. And that's one beautiful thing about Peru, is that you got thousands of trails. It's a country built by humanity. It's not built by petrol, so to speak. It's built for animals, women and men. So it's perfect for bike touring or bikepacking, because when it's built by manpower, it's really enjoyable switchbacks and route design. Whereas when you go in a country where it's built by petrol, you get super steep tarmac roads that are very, very, very hard. And Peru, you get thousands of trails that have been built for carrying messages and carrying goods. So that's the story of the chasquis, and I wanted to give tribute to these people. And I'm actually sharing as well conferences about that specific theme, and the fact that Peru with the chasquis and the Inca culture was among one of the biggest empire on earth, and they built the Capetown, the royal network, which was connecting Colombia to Chile.
Some of the people following this are probably thinking to themselves, running long distances is fine for Axel. He's an expert. He's been doing this for years. He's an accomplished world record holder and organizer of ultra-distance cycling events. What advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the game of backpacking? Should they start with a weekend trip? Should they go for a week or a serious long adventure like you did? What are your thoughts?
I would say just go for it. The hardest thing to go bikepacking, bike touring, doing world records is taking the decision to go for it. And then the rest will follow. And what I've seen in the past on these experiences, the people that I've met on the road, riding their bikes in South America, in Jordan, in Asia, in Taiwan, in Laos, in Oman, in all the countries that I've been, you all the time meet people from different backgrounds, different ages. And I believe that's the beauty of bicycle. I mean, it's in reach of almost anyone who decides one day to go for it. So I wouldn't say, it's a matter of length or days, or because it's already putting limits to maybe a bigger project of your own. So just go for it and try to respect your body and follow your instinct, because most of the time that will prevail.
Sure.
And all the rest are details and stuff that you can find on the internet. But in the end, I've never been on a bike before 2011. So I was at that time 9 years younger. So I was 26. 26 years old. That's the first time I've been on a bike. And the bike that I had ridden at that time took me across 4 countries on a trip of 1,200 kilometers on the ridiculous terrain in the Cartagena mountains in Ukraine with a 45 kilos bike. And I had no experiences at all of what riding a bike meant at that time. What I decided to do in the first place was just saying yes to a friend who told me, you need to experience this and try it. Of course, I suffered from pain. I had some, issues with the saddle sore and all the things that you will learn. And you need some time on the bike to learn this, as much as anything in life. You can't read about life. You need to experience it. And riding a bike is the same. You can read thousands of articles. The decision is your own. So just do it. And then the rest will follow.
Sure. Excellent advice. Okay, one other thing I wanted to ask you was, for the final question was, what distinguishes BikingMan from other ultra-distance bikepacking races out there? I mean, I've read about what you say. I'm just interested, what do you think makes it special and distinct?
There are 2 main things. The first thing is the format, because when you race a BikingMan, wherever it is, among the countries that you've mentioned, from Oman to Taiwan or Brazil, you'll find the same format and an experience, and you know exactly where you're putting your feet into, basically, because you get the same organization, same format, same logistics. And among the thousands of events that have popped up over the past 10 years, it's pretty hard for people to know exactly what they can expect from an event. With BikingMan, they know exactly what is it. And I would say the second is definitely the community, because for now, from 2017 until now, we gathered around 700 participants total. And lots of them are returning participants. So there is a big community, forming and evolving on these events. And it's just super nice to meet people you enjoyed riding with, that might have helped you on a ridiculously hard situation linked to also distance bikepacking. And it's like a troop. I don't know if you can say this in English, but it's a troupe in French. It feels like the community is following on each event. And we have riders that happen then to be volunteers that turn then as athletes and riders. And that sense of community, I think, is pretty unique and very enjoyable when you're attempting these kind of challenges.
Okay, and one last final question. What's next for Axel, and what's next for BikingMan? What new things are you looking forward to, adventures and races, etc. for BikingMan?
The COVID is posing a lot of things that I had on the radar. So for now, I can't tell. I wouldn't be honest, because the COVID situation has frozen a lot of things, and a lot of travel constraints are preventing me, but everyone, to travel afar. So new adventures for sure, wherever they are, and new races for sure, wherever they will be. But for now, I can't tell. Sure. What I can tell is that it's my life. It's been years that I have been doing this, and I'm super happy to do that and happy to share about it. And I will try as much as I can to do everything that I can to, yeah, keep gathering people and inspiring people with the expeditions that I'm organizing.
Sure. And there is a race happening, I mean, that should be happening technically, if everything goes according to plan, in October, correct? In Corsica. Like that race at this stage is going ahead. Is that right?
We still have two races in the calendar that are supposed to happen in 2020. Portugal late September and
Okay.
Corsica late October.
Okay.
So
Fingers
fingers
crossed.
crossed that we don't get any bad situation or the back wave or whatever names they are trying to give to the second thing that is happening with COVID. But I really hope that we can organize these events, because I got lucky in 2020. Oman was organized in February, right before the COVID.
Wow.
We unfortunately had to cancel Brazil, Peru, and Laos. So I really hope that we can gather up the people that are waiting and lusting to explore Portugal and Corsica on a bike.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, good luck with the organization and good luck with everything. I'm sure I'll run into you sometime in one of these races once COVID settles down. And thank you so
Yeah,
much
well,
for your
we
time.
might see each other in Peru.
Yeah, you never know. Thank you so much for your time, Axel. I really appreciate it out of your busy schedule, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Thank you.
Take care, mate.